selector, rewind selector, rewind selector. Rewind selector, rewind selector, rewind selector.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our weekly live stream here on my channel. If you are not a subscriber yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button. We live stream every Wednesday at 6:30. Having good times here, having a lot of good times. And we've been doing best bourbons of the century so far. Number one will be dropping soon. Any guesses as to what it might be? Anybody have any guesses? I am really excited to reveal what is my number one of the best bourbons of the century so far. Now, after this live stream, I have to crank out a story for Forbes. So apologies, members. There will be no live members only live stream after this like we typically do. And if you are not a member, you'll see a little join button there by the subscribe button. You can start at $1.99. It's a great time. The members they have their own emojis. We get to hang out on a regular basis. I'm going to start doing some members only tastings where we have like some interaction stuff. And one of my favorite things is doing things that's exclusive to them. So they get to see the videos before they are public. The singling level members have already seen the list of best bourbons of the century. And last night, they got to see me interview Jizmac from Gwar in full friggin' monster costume. So that's going to be for my special, the Halloween special. So I'm turning that into a cartoon, and it was off the charts crazy. I think it was crazy in a good way. Like, but he did talk about eating babies, which, you know, I didn't ever anticipate having a guest, you know, eating babies and pairing them with whiskey. But that's their shtick, you know, it's a Gore shtick. So this is a live stream tonight. It is about Old Forester. Can't wait to get to it. But I also want to tell you about a couple things that are cooking. In the description, if you click the description, you'll see a link in there for tickets for an event I'm doing with the lead singer of Tonic. You know, open up your eyes. If, you know, they so many great songs from them. They were basically the soundtrack of American Pie when that came out. Emerson Hart and I are doing a music and whiskey pairing. He's going to play some songs acoustically, and I'm pairing whiskey to it. I'll be announcing my whiskeys very soon, so you'll be able to go and buy those whiskeys, and you'll be able to taste the whiskey alongside us as he's playing. And I'm really, really excited about this. It's going to be a great, great event. We're going to have an incredible time. But really, it's the combination of two beauties of, you know, two beautiful things in whiskey and music. Something, you know, things that I'm very passionate about. It's also kind of like the new norm of how events are being held. And so we will be together, socially distanced. We will be together in an auditorium. And you all will be able to see us like there's a front row ticket, and then there's a general admission ticket. So you can go buy tickets. Just click on the link in the in the description. Just click for more of the descriptions. It's under like the first paragraph or something like that. But you can also go to topeka.live to find out more information on it. Now, also, this live stream and additional live streams coming down the road are brought to you by Manscaped. That's right. I now have a sponsor for these live streams. I'm very excited about that, to get to talk to you all about Manscaped. Jacqueline's going to come on a show with me and talk about it. So you can go to manscaped.com. They are the male grooming sponsor for the Fred Minnick Show. So go to manscaped.com and just click put in Smooth Fred at checkout to save 20%. Now you can go over there. You can see they have some very interesting and clever marketing. You can feel free to have fun with that in the chat, but I won't be getting too loose with some of that stuff. But I will say that they've got some great products over there. So go to manscaped.com and just type in Smooth Fred at checkout. So today, as always, we have two cameras. Whoa, that camera's a little further down. This is the camera that I will be, looking at when I am, chatting with you all and taking a look at the comments. And, so if you guys have any questions, this is where I'll be. But I will be at this camera when I'm talking about the whiskeys and I'm talking about, just tasting in general. So what we have today is we have the Old Forester 150th anniversary. Now this is the longest standing brand with the same company. Old Forester has been around since 1870. This is a really important brand in the story of American history. It basically is the brand that puts Brown-Forman on the map. Now, it would go, George Garvin Brown was a pioneer, a very important person in the history of whiskey. I wrote in my book, Bourbon, The Rise, Fall, and Rebirth of American Whiskey, that if he were alive, then there is a good chance that we would not have seen Prohibition. But he died almost a decade before Prohibition happened, and because he had a brain. He wrote a book about how the Bible is not against drinking, and that was the whole movement back then. Was that if you drank too much, you were violating God's belief in how much you should consume. And he was a very smart man, and he was a very smart. He was very smart about being able to predict what the other side would think or say. And so Old Forester is a brand that lives very strong. In the 1800s and the early 1900s, it does pretty well, but it really doesn't get its kind of like fame until we see like the 1950s and the 60s, and it's known for its quality. And the president of the company at that time would select his own barrel and give it to people. But really, when Brown-Forman acquired Jack Daniel's, they started putting less love into Old Forester. Old Forester for a long time was just kind of like the stepchild of the company. Even though it was their first child, they would put more love into Jack Daniel's. They would put more love into Woodford Reserve, which came out in 1996. And you would even see them try to reboot Early Times when they owned that. And it just like Old Forester was the brand that just moved in Kentucky, and bartenders across the country knew about it, and it was not something that they put a lot of effort in. As the bourbon boom kind of hit, as people started requesting more about bourbon, wanted more information about bourbon, wanted to taste more bourbon, Old Forester starts seeing this incredible rise, and the Brown-Forman started investing heavily into it. They announced Campbell Brown, a member of the Brown family, to be the president of Old Forester. And so when we see him kind of come into play, you start seeing Old Forester get a lot more limelight from a company that has basically been known for Jack and Woodford Reserve. And so now Old Forester, I would argue, is not only the rising star of Brown-Forman. I think they have probably one of the most important voices and people in the tasting and blending and distilling sections, and that is Jackie Zykan. Of course, I wrote a cover story about Jackie Zykan in Bourbon Plus magazine. If you have not checked it out, go to bourbonplus.com, and you can see that story or buy a back issue. And so what I have done here today, as I like to do, I don't like to just taste the new products as I receive. And these were given to me by the distillery at no cost to me. It's very important that these are samples from the distillery. I bought that one and I bought that one. So what I like to do is I like to take these these allocated products, and these are the 150th anniversary. They're coming in at barrel proof, and in fact, they did not list the ages of these. So these have no age to them. There's no age statement to them, but they are all in that seven-ish range, and they were kind of in some intense parts of the warehouses. Now they got 150 barrels and split them up into 3 batches. Batch one is 125.6 proof, and it contains 46 barrels. Batch 2 is 126.4 proof, and it has 48 barrels. And batch 3 has 53 barrels and is 126.8. So they're all pretty close in proof. And the retail on this is $150. These two, however, which come from that same family, are not $150. You can buy this one between $50 and $65, and you can buy this one for I think Statesman. I think I paid $30 for that one. I don't remember. But so I wanted to taste these products and see if they were indeed worthy of that extra money, because typically Old Forester has done a really, really good job at pricing, to what it's worth. And they also throw in some nice values here and there, like the Old Forester rye, beautiful rye whiskey for $23. So there's a little bit of story behind that. Now, as you might have heard Brian talk about, sipping corn on the latest Bourbon Pursuit in the roundtable, we have been trying to get Old Forester to do cask strength forever. And they kept saying no and no and no. And here we are with some cask strength. So this is a moment that I have been waiting for. These were poured blindly for me. The answers are right there in that little notebook. Actually, you can't see it in the camera. But I am excited to get going. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take a look in the chat and see if we have any questions. Aaron Madden says, 1910 fan. Now, I was not a fan of 1910. I think there was like a real bitterness there. I didn't really care for that. But yeah. Yeah, I was not a big fan of that one. But with that said, I'm all about people finding what they like. So if you like 1910, there's a whole lot of products that I would recommend that you keep tasting and trying because your palate, if you really like 1910, there's a whole nother subset of whiskeys out there that you might really, really like. Logan Drumhiller says, give us the number one bourbon. Give us the number one bourbon. Here's the truth. I'm waiting on the edit from my video editor on it. Should be coming in soon. Christopher Nelson says, I'm excited to see the results of the tasting within one brand. I would like to see more of these. Well, Mr. Nelson, I'm on it. Let's see what else we got here. Jeff Applebaum says, I really wish he would stop saying Smooth Fred. All right, Jeff. I won't do it again. All right, everybody. If you have a question, it looks like we have a question coming in from Twitch. To Maniac, what's your question? What can I do for you in this fine Wednesday evening? A live stream across DLive, Twitch, YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook. Okay. I don't think that is a question I can answer, but thank you for asking if I would be your daddy. I'm afraid that I cannot be your daddy, and I appreciate you coming on and watching, but I need to get to some whiskey. Here we go. I'm going to start with Glass A. Now, yesterday, I did this live stream with Jizmac from Gore, and that was he had this whole spiel of like he didn't know how to read. And it was so now I don't think I can look at these bottles without thinking about him in that costume talking about that. That was hilarious. So, Glass A. Really spicy smells. Got a kind of like a bag of hot roasted cinnamon, pecans like you get like at a fair, like a candy pecan. Oh man. Molasses, brown sugar, vanilla. And those like really sweet baked beans, those like it's brown sugar, but then you got like the fleshiness of the bean. It's like, I'm just going to say like barbecue baked beans. I really like A. A is definitely tasty. Keep A over here. Go to B. Matthew Gore says he's a fan of 1915. Now that's when you mix 1920 and 1910. Now when I'm done with this, what I'll do is I will blend all these together for like my own like episode. I've been keeping track of my various episodes so I don't waste any whiskey. After coming from A, B is definitely, lighter. It's tasty, but it's lighter. A little more grainy. Not, it's quite good, but, does not live up to that umph and power of A. Go to glass C. Now, next week, I'm going to have former ScotchWhiskey.com editor, Becky Paskin. Becky Paskin is going to come on the show, and we're going to break down the best scotches for bourbon drinkers. So if you're a little scotch curious, this will be a good show for you. There's also a lot of value in scotch, like when you're in this world that you can't really find bourbon. I find that there's incredible value in the Scotch world. Glass C. C is a little rustic. It's earthy, cornbread, and banana. Now, it's interesting. Now, we know this is the same distillery, and we know it's the same recipe, same yeast, similar warehouses, all in heat-cycled warehouses. And these are just three very different whiskeys, three very different ones. So I'd encourage you to play around with this at home. If you are able to, taste multiple whiskeys from a distillery, just see how different they can be. There's a lot you can do with just proofing it down, swapping out an older barrel with a younger one. It's a fascinating study of whiskey. Glass D. Wow. Holy shit. That is drop dead gorgeous. Whoa. It's making my neck hair stand up. I mean, it's a cross between like a caramel bomb Oh. A caramel bomb, rye bread, little toffee, and vanilla. It's interesting. I'm usually doing like up to 10 to 15 on the tasting, and here I am only with 5, and I'm like, oh wow. I mean, how do we get through that so quick? All right, let's go to glassy. Also really good. E is kind of like it's a mouthfeel whiskey in that it's kind of like really showing itself strongly on the back palate and moving toward the middle and the front. But it kind of concentrates very strongly on the mouthfeel side on the back palate. Very spicy. I like it. All right, so now it's time to make some decisions. But before we do that, I'll go ahead and come over here and take some questions. If you have any questions, let me know here. We got a lot of stuff going on. My Brewers are playing at 10 o'clock tonight. Go Crew. Let's. I'm definitely wanting to. Taste these and then have a nice beer while I'm watching the game. Danny Lynn says, it seems to me from a historical standpoint, this is Old Forester's time now. I think you might be right like that. Aaron Madden says, I want the Bourbon Encyclopedia he gets his stories from. Well, Aaron, you're welcome to go check out my books. I've got several books out there. I've got Whiskey Women. I've got Bourbon Curious, and I've got Bourbon: The Rise, Fall, and Rebirth of American Whiskey. I've been covering whiskey for 15 years, and I've had a great time researching the history. And I'd say the history might be my favorite part. So go check that out. So when we take a look at what we have here tonight, we have a very different. We have 3 whiskeys that stand out, okay, and then we have 2 that just kind of are okay. So like C and B. I'm definitely moving C to last place. Tasty, but not quite there. So now I got to retaste A. And do I like it over B? Answer is yes. I like A over B. D. I like D over B. I like E over B. Okay. So B is in 4th place. So now we are looking at A, D, and E. Let's get some fresh pours here. Get these 2 out of the way. Well, you all are awfully quiet tonight in the chat. What's going on, folks? Are we chatting it up? Do we have the chat going? I'm gonna go into YouTube. Make sure that maybe you all are chatting, and I'm just not seeing the comments on my third-party software. So let's take a look here. So what's everyone drinking tonight? Anybody drinking some Old Forester with me? I'm excited to find out what we got. Yeah. All right, so I'm in YouTube.
If you shop on Amazon, you should use...
And that guy, so you guys, it looks like... looks like you guys are all here. Yeah, you guys are all here. A. Miller's drinking some Evan Williams. Love it. Austin Stewart's drinking some Elijah Craig, 12-year-old. That is good stuff. I am a huge fan. Let's see here. I'm a huge fan of the Old Forester single barrels. You know that you're referencing there, Nate. That's some good whiskey. That is some good whiskey. JB on Periscope is drinking some rare breed. Rare breed is some tasty stuff. It is some tasty stuff. Let's see here. Switch account. What is up with you all? And Mike is drinking some JD single barrel. Who picked the single barrel? I love me some JD single barrel. Some Jack Daniel's single barrel. Got some 1970 Ezra Brooks in the house. That's good whiskey. That's really good whiskey. Hank Spicer's drinking some 10-year-old Redemption. You know what? That 10-year-old Redemption, it was some good stuff. Oh, Bo Dietrich got some Rock Hill Farms. That ain't fair. That just ain't fair. W.D. Connor, so little Foursquare 2007. All right. Well, let's get back to it. So we've got a 3 whiskey showdown. I think I know where I'm leaning, but let's get into it. So A, really spicy. There's some pecan there. There's some cardamom. That baked beans, a brown sugar baked beans note. And I'm really just a huge fan of like this Bananas Foster. I'm kind of getting there. But when I go to D, D just kind of rocks me. You know, it's like, it's complex. It's a caramel bomb. I really like that. Whereas E, so putting A in third. D and E are my faves. And this might be too close to call. This is a tough one. Whew. I really do not know which way I'm going to go on this one. Am I feeling the caramel, or am I feeling the spicy side? Go ahead and come to a couple questions here. I see them popping up. Jeff Schmid says Old Forester has a master distiller and a master taster, if I'm not mistaken. That's correct. Chris Morris is the master distiller, and Jackie Zykin is the master taster. She's also doing a bit of blending. So, have I ever been approached for that job, a master taster by any distillery? I have been approached by people for jobs like this. I really treasure my independence. I'm not a corporate person. I'm not a person that can really be put in a box for working. And I also like my role as kind of a writer. I like the media side. I don't think I'll ever like jump into a distillery. If I go work for a distillery, it's for personal reasons. Like my family, it's the best decision for my family because right now I'm doing everything I can to stay in the media side of things. Now things have changed. COVID's been difficult, but we've pivoted quite nicely. And YouTube and these live streams have been a big part of that. So thank you, Jeff, for continuing to watch. Yeah. So I have been approached, but at the end of the day, I'm really not that interested in. I'm really not that interested in working for someone else. I absolutely treasure my independence. So. Okay, so here we go. Got to determine between D and E. Now, both of these are spectacular bourbons. I think they kind of are so far out ahead of the other three that it's like it's basically like it's like a Kentucky Derby race when you had like a pack of horses and then two just kind of go right out and they're just like so close. So it's just a matter of styles. So D is the caramel bomb, leaning toward like the sweeter notes. It's got some nutty notes in there, but it's definitely leaning toward the sweet. Whereas E, so spicy. It's packing a lot of spice. It's packing a lot of flavor. And it's a matter of like, if you are someone who likes spices, like if you like the taste of like a chili sauce or cinnamon red hots, E is going to be what you want all day long. If you are someone who likes desserts, if you like the taste of a sweet caramel chew, D's your winner every day. But what I try to do, I try not to just focus on what I like, but I try to see like what points of the palate it's hitting, how long it's hitting it, and how long the finish is. That helps me as a taster not to take my personal biases in when selecting it. I will say that if I am choosing based on my personal preferences of what I would want to drink, I would probably choose D in most situations, but E is one I'm going to crave. So you have really two bourbons that meet my personal expectations of what a great bourbon should taste like. And I do put both of these in that category of great. So here we go. Class D. I just can't get over like how it's sweet, but there's so much concentration on the spice parts of the palate. I love that so much. And I made note that it made my neck hair stand up. It's nice. But E covers more parts of the palate. E's on there. It's covering every inch of the palate. It's tickling the roof of my mouth. So it's got like D makes my neck hair stand up when I first taste it. And E has a very tickling sensation on the roof of my palate. Neither one of them are doing that that buttery kind of jawline dripping down. Neither one of them are doing that. They're very focused on the tongue and, in the case of E, on the roof of the mouth. And so, like, the way that these two are just so focused on, like, they're staying so put on the tongue, and they're finishing long there, and they just taste so beautiful. Both of these are beautiful, excellent expressions of American whiskey, and I'd buy a damn case of both of them. But, you know, I like to rank these, and I like to put something out there that I like this one more than that one, versus like a score. Because if I were actually to score these, I'd probably score them the same. They'd probably both be, you know, 93, 94, and then, you know, but that's the thing about scoring. That's the thing about judging it by the glass. You do have to judge it you have to compare it to something and pick a winner. It's just not the same if you just say, I like it and I like that. But I believe in the role I'm at, I like to say I like that one more than that one. And it's all about like hoping that other people take that and say, I like Wild Turkey 101 more than I like Jim Beam White Label. And it's okay to like one thing more than the other. And it's okay to like something, period. I would never tell you that you shouldn't go buy something just because I don't like it. You know, you buy whatever you want, like whatever you like. I'm just one person. And, you know, but when it comes down to, you know, doing these blind tastings, it's really a matter of like where is it hitting on the palate? How long is it on the palate? What are the main sensations? What are the main flavors? And you know, if you're just focusing on the individual glass, you miss a lot of that. You just kind of focus on what you like. So I'm trying to break things down in a more like comparative analysis, if you will. And when I do it that way, E's conversation changes entirely. And suddenly, that beautiful spiciness that it had, it's becoming more elegant. There's more, there's like chocolate notes I'm picking up now. There's caramel notes I'm picking up now. And I'm just really excited to see. Oh, some bitch. Oh, that's so good. Just really excited to see how E completely like covers the entire palate, with the exception of the bottom of the palate. And that's not really that big of a deal. But there's so much going on with E. It's so beautiful. But so is D. Folks, this is a coin flip. This is a coin flip. This is a straight up coin flip, and you know, and we've lost. It looks like I've lost the chat, the ability for my. So I have a. Let me explain how this works for me. I have a third party software that I do these live streams with. That's how I'm able to have graphics. That's how I'm able to like put up your comment, and it feeds in all the comments from all the things, all the platforms I stream to. And I lost my YouTube community because they're normally like chatting, very chatty and everything. And it looks like I've missed an incredible amount of commentary from members and people in the YouTube community. So I'm gonna go on over here and see if there's any questions that I missed. Robot Red says it was frozen, and the chat seems glitchy. Okay, so we had some issues with the chat. Looks like there's a lot of. Tony G says he's on his post-workout drink. Nice. The Bourbon Dram reviews. I just did a blind flight of 1920, Smoke Wagon, and New Riff. Right on, man. How did they rank out? Who did the best there? So, always like to hear folks getting into the blind tasting scene. And I'm new to YouTube. I'm close to a year in really giving YouTube a go, and it's been a journey. It has been a journey. But I'm trying to bring a little bit of educational thing to YouTube as well as fun. And also, I get to be myself a little bit more, you know. Well, of all the tastings I have done, choosing D and E, this may be the hardest. And those who have followed, those who have been around, you know I've had some close calls before, but we're talking like a fraction of a point. I think D, the difference between D and E is I think D can be duplicated. I think D might be able to be, you might be able to get these flavors again with another barrel or with another batch. But I think what E is so powerful with its complexity within the spice range that I just don't see a lot of whiskeys coming down the same path. So, and I can't stress this enough, this is extremely close, but I'm giving the nod to E, and it's really, really close, but I'm going with E because I think E is more unique. They kind of score equally in terms of how they feel on the tongue. E does have quite a bit more, surface area coverage, but, D really, D hit really strongly in the right spots. And I just think that there are a lot of that style out there. A lot of caramel bomb, little spice coming in underneath. You don't really see a lot of elegance with spice and how beautiful those can come off. So I'll take some questions here. I'll hop in the YouTube community here and see if we have any questions. In Periscope, A. Miller, I haven't heard much of bottom off palate whiskeys. Could you name a few? You mean the whiskeys that are hitting in the back, like the back palate, styles? That would be definitely we're looking at some things like Four Roses, some of the rare breeds, some of the rye releases, so I think it's all dependent of it varies, it varies a lot. Bill Woods, if Fred goes to a distillery, the others will cut off their free samples. Fred is no fool. I don't know what that means, Bill. But I will say this. I'm independent. I think it might be in relation to to the question about whether or not I would go work for a distillery. I actually don't think, I think samples, I don't care about samples. I actually buy the majority of my whiskey that I taste. Some of the more difficult ones to get, I do have to rely on the media samples. I can't get around that because I can't get a bottle I can't get the entire Buffalo Trace Antique collection, and sometimes I can't afford it. But with that said, I think you underestimate the collegial nature of the community, in that Jimmy Russell used to send Jim Rutledge samples and say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And Jim Rutledge would taste stuff from Jack Daniels and vice versa. So I think there's the inside of the distilling community, and then there is the marketing side. So don't confuse those two. But doesn't even matter. I'm not going to go work for a distillery. So okay, all right, here we go. I'm gonna jump back in and let's go ahead and name what these were. Okay. I gotta find the page. It was not held for me there. All right, Alex, where'd you put the page? That's the rye tasting the other day. All right, so I have someone do the pouring for me, and I don't know what these are when I taste them, and they're put in the notebook. And now I can't find the page. Ah, found it. Okay. I'm going to do one more tasting. Now I know what they are, but that doesn't mean anything, because I don't think I've seen anyone else talk about these. Just so you know, both the top two are these. It's one of these. But I just had a thought in my head about the complexity of E. And that I wanted to see if that banana note was on the spice part. And because when I was thinking, I've been thinking about how the spices hit me with E, and typically spice does not hit on the back, or bananas do not hit on like the back part. Bananas typically hit in the middle to the front. And how crazy is it that I'm picking up the banana flavor in the back palate? And I remember getting a nice baseline of a banana in D, and I want to see like where it hits on the palate. So this is really more of a Well, folks, I did say this was splitting hairs. I did say this was like, this was hard. And I'll just say that if you are a spice fan, E is where you go. But here I am being, I said that, I try to take out personal preference as much as I can. But the fact is sometimes you cannot pull out the personal preference. Sometimes you just cannot do it. And when I retasted it that time, and I'm focusing on that particular banana note, I'm trying to laser in on it where it's hitting. I just felt like that D was a more complete style. It is a caramel bomb, and so if you don't like caramel bombs, just stay away from D. But if you really, really like spice, then E is going to be your winner for tonight. But after assessing it for like a 15th time and looking at what they were, had nothing to do with it. But after assessing it again, I have to say that D is your champion tonight. So, what are they? Coming in at in last place, Statesman. Coming in at 4th place, 1920. So the top 3 are all of the 150th anniversary batches. And A is batch 3. So coming in at 3rd place is batch 3. Batch 3 comes in at 3rd place. And I cannot reiterate how close the top 2 were. So batch 3 of 150th anniversary was nowhere close. It was nowhere close to these two. I cannot reiterate that. Like E and D, just absolutely splendid. E being the spice bomb. This is batch 2. Batch 2 of the Old Forester 150th anniversary. And so batch 1 is D. So batch 1 is your winner today. So how about it for batch 1? Let me grab it. Is that it? I can't even see where the batch is. I had this whole thing I was going to do. Oh, that's 2. I see it now. There we go. Batch 1. Yay! So batch 1 to me is kind of wins on the personal preference side. I think if you were to break it down from like a critic perspective, I think this needs to have a panel, to be honest with you. D and E are so close, but at the end of the day, when I went back to retest E in the final stages, I was craving D. I was craving D while I was tasting E. And that may sound odd, but at the end of the day, we are only people, and we are going to choose things that we like. And I definitely like, on the personal preference scale, D a lot more than I do E. And, I did my best to kind of like take out some of my personal preferences in the tasting. But E is splendid. It's magnificent. But I want to drink D every day of my life. I guess that's what it comes down to. So I'll take some questions now. I understand we have some issues with the chat and YouTube. And we've got some really nice comments coming in here. I was attacked by a monkey on Twitch. Says he or she loves Old Forester, and never had a bad thing by them. And I don't think you'll go wrong here for sure. Chuck Dick says Old Forester's putting out some Good stuff these days. I hope I can find some 150. I do too. I hope you can get there. Anthony, how you doing? I miss you. I wonder how I keep getting away with it. Here I am again in the tasting room. I wonder how I keep getting away with it. That's a good question. That is a really good question. So, it looks like YouTube got back in the action here. So, batch 1 for the win. That's right. Batch 1 for the win, says Hank Butts. Eric asks, how hard is it to get? That I don't know. I don't think these have actually been released yet. I think you're only seeing like media samples out there, but I think you will get you will see them in the. I think you will see them in a wild. Logan asked, how do they compare to King of Kentucky? Very, very different. These are not as like in your face as King of Kentucky. King of Kentucky tends to be very like molassesy. They're different recipes too. So, and they're older. So I think a little bit night and day, but yeah, D's so freaking good. Batch 1 all day long. Well, I'm coming up on the end here. It's been an hour. I do want to say that I really appreciate you all coming and hanging out with me tonight. I've got a lot of cool things ahead. So if you want to make sure that you see all that's going on, I've got some great interviews coming up. I'm going to be tasting whiskey with Uncle Cracker here pretty soon. I've got some really big names coming out in the hip-hop community that I'll be able to announce soon. A lot of these things I can't announce, due to, they're famous people. But I'll be tasting whiskey with some great, awesome people in all music genres. But, more than anything, my whole goal here with YouTube, my whole goal in this world is to really educate and talk about the cool stuff that's going on in whiskey. And you will start seeing more like personality interviews and bringing in more like people from distilleries, like you saw it in my Bourbons of the Century so far. If you love bourbon, if you love learning about it, just click the subscribe button. You won't regret it. And if you'd like to get deeper into the conversation, become a YouTube member where we basically hang out all the time and just chat it up. So it's a good time, and we've got a lot of cool things coming. So I hope that you are well. I hope you are safe. And I do hope that, oh my goodness, this is a great question from Jeff Schmid. I apologize for not taking a look at the questions, but he asked, does the $150 represent a good value on batch 1? Oh my God, yes. Oh yes. The $150 is a really great price point for all three of these. I would say the ones that I put in the top two, like if you can get those for $150, that is a steal. That is a steal. The one I put in third, I'm sorry, and I apologize. I think it was batch 3. I want to make sure it was batch 3. Yeah, so batch 3. Batch 3 was came in third. I think that's pushing it for batch 3. I think batch 3 was just not in the same league. I think it was fine, but I'd probably take. We're talking money here. We're not talking flavor profile, but I'm probably taking Old Forester 1920 over batch 3 every day of the week. With that said, it did outtaste Old Forester 1920, but it's also twice and a half more expensive. So I would say, like, you know, if you had your money saved and you could pick up the entire set, go for it. The entire set would be fun for you to taste alongside, but batches 1 and 2, they're on another level. Batch 3, I don't even think deserves to be in the same conversation. Just my opinion. But yeah, so glad you asked that question, because money is important. We do need to like put a comment on that. So I appreciate that question. So all right, everybody, I think that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for hanging out and tuning in. I'm gonna call it a night. I got some writing to do. Check out the best bourbon of the century coming out here any minute now. So stoked to talk about that. So I'll see you guys later. Be safe out there. No licking handrails, no licking trash cans, and remember, vodka sucks.